We're back on the show. Our Neblett Beard and Arsenault Legal Difference segment returns. With me this morning, attorney Michael Koch to talk about tort reform. Tell us what it's all about. Mike, Happy New Year. Thanks for joining me.
Well, Happy New Year to you also, Mark. It's always good to be on and visiting with you.
Yeah, and we got a little king cake here. I was thinking maybe, if you ever drop by the station, I'll share a little bit with you.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. And I tell you what, that makes the best king cake, too. That really sounded good when you talked about that. But what didn't sound good was the poor man that forgot his password.
No, and I'm sure you're in the same boat because I forget passwords all the time.
Me too, and I'm writing them down constantly all over. Then you're kind of afraid to put them in your phone because if you lose your phone, then they got your passwords. So it's quite the quandary.
Yeah, you can't win. You can't win.
You can't win. And I do like some of them, you have like a face recognition where, you hit something and they recognize your face and then you're good to go. You don't have to memorize the password until that goes out. And
yeah, that might work, yeah.
Exactly.
All right, Michael, moving on to the topic. First tell me what tort reform is.
Tort reform is something that really the business industry has put out there to change laws and to reform the laws, reform the laws that people have the right to go into court and to, recover for injuries they sustain.
Yeah.
So that's generally the nutshell of it.
Okay, now how's tort reform impacting how car accident cases are now handled in the court?
Yeah, and the thing about that, Mark, is I think it's probably too early to tell at this point due to the fact that that they did it in the last legislative session. They passed it, and it was House Bill 57 that got amended to Act 36. But in any event, it doesn't go into effect till January 1 of this year, 2021. So any accidents that happened before this date, you still use the old law. So obviously, it just happens to incidents that arise after January 1. So that's what my thought is. It's just way too early to tell at this point how it's handled in court. But it's definitely going to be a big deal.
Yeah, I can imagine. And what, in your mind, Mike, right now, looking at it, what will be the impact of this law?
I just think that lawyers are going to be more selective on cases they take, which is a good thing. You always want to be selective on the cases you take. I think is also the impact's going to be that a lot of more folks are going to be asked to serve on juries. Since the jury threshold went down from 50,000 in tort cases down to 10,000. So I think those are going to be the biggest issues that's going to face is more people will actually have more jury trials. I really believe that due to the lower limit of jury threshold.
How will it affect, a lot of people are going to be asking this, how will it affect your car insurance rates?
And that's the number one thing we're waiting on.
Yeah.
I certainly hope that it affects, that's the whole purpose of the law, Mark, was to reduce the rates. But the sad thing is this, and this is being truthful, when they passed what's called the no pay, no play, which you and I have visited about many times, that we hoped that would have lowered our insurance rates. That didn't do it. There's statistics out there in other states that this did not lower the insurance rates. So I'm hoping that that's not the case, because at the end of the day, we all want to pay lower insurance rates,
right.
and that's what we're waiting on to see if this actually comes through.
Okay, a lot of it is we just wait and see and see what happens since it's relatively new.
Absolutely, that's it, Mark.
What's the new seatbelt law about, Mike?
Okay, the new seatbelt law is that we've always had that requirement that you got to wear seatbelts.
Right.
Now, this particular law, and I'm going to just, because doing a little research, getting ready for this, Mark, I kind of, looked it up, and then I looked up the last, change we had on seatbelt law was in 2019, where the governor signed into effect that any child younger than 2 must be restrained in the rear-facing seat. So it has nothing to do with that, but that was the latest change. And then this change really is not a new seatbelt law. It's under the same statute, 32:295.1. What it does was there was a subparagraph in there, Section E, which said the use of the seatbelt cannot be used in a trial, that if you weren't wearing your seatbelt, that cannot be used against you. They've repealed that, and now what they're saying is that it can be used against you.
Wow.
So, for instance, if somebody ran a red light, they're definitely totally at fault in running the red light.
Yeah.
Now, if you didn't have your seatbelt on, now all of a sudden you're bearing some responsibility for this same accident, that your damages can be reduced based on you not wearing that seatbelt.
Yeah, that leads me to my next question as far as the impact car accident cases we'll have in court.
Yeah, and like I said, we don't know at this point, but it's definitely going to be an issue that all lawyers are going to need to know the law on this. They're going to have to, and it's like anything, Mark. You try to work it out with the opposing counsel ahead of time. You try to work it out with the adjuster. But if you can't and you go to court, then it's going to be for the court system and the jury. They'll be able to find out whether you had your seatbelt on or not, and then they can hold that against you to reduce your damages.
All right, Mike, hey, thanks for joining me. There's some changes coming with tort reform that people need to be aware of, that's for sure.
Absolutely, Mark, and that's what we're trying to do is let people be aware of this so they know what changes are out there. And then sometimes, and to be honest with you, with me, Mark, I can just tell you that, I reach my wallet, I'm at McDonald's or something, and I don't put that seatbelt on right away, but I promise you, since this new law, I'm thinking, put that seatbelt on because somebody's going to run into you, and then you're going to be partially at fault because you didn't have your seatbelt on. So
that's really good advice. The minute you get in the car, put the seatbelt on.
Exactly, and if you got, and sometimes, with men folk, we have our phone in our pockets and we can't reach it, and we unhook the seatbelt to take it out. Put that seatbelt back on as soon as you get that phone out, and don't use the phone when you're driving.
Exactly. Good advice there, too. Hey, Mike, thanks. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Mark. Have a great day.
You too. Take care. We have more to come. Billy McRae with us.